Listen to how this episode ends, because once you hear it right, you can't watch this show the same way again. They have the bones, but the bottle tree is gone. You're gonna lose this time. I've always admired your optimism. I guess we'll see. That's not a haunting. That's a scoreboard. And the boy in white just told you the score's been kept a long time.
You're gonna lose this time.
I've always admired your optimism. I guess we'll see.
Subscribe before we get into this, because the proof is hiding in 3 scenes most people scrolled right past tonight. Here's the theory in 1 sentence. From Isn't a Haunted Town. It's a chess match between the man in yellow and the boy in white. And every resident is a piece neither one of them fully controls. Stick around, because by the end you'll understand why this episode's title is basically a confession, and what it means for Season 5. Proof number 1. Every move's cost gets stated out loud before it happens. Every single time. Pull out the tree, and it's like opening a window.
Oh, talismans or not, those things are coming inside.
That's the cost, stated up front, before a single move gets made. And before they even start, Tabitha says the line that should have been this episode's title. We only get to do this once, and the way that we do this matters. Sit with that for a second. Ghosts don't care about technique. Games do. That's not superstition. That's a rule book. Proof number 2. And it's the detail almost everyone glosses over while they're watching the bones. When the sky goes dark, watch how the man in yellow actually ends the protection on this town. She doesn't wave a hand and switch it off. She walks house to house and physically removes every talisman, one at a time. If this were a haunting, she could just turn the protection off. She can't. The talismans were still working. She had to manually take them off the board, piece by piece, because the rules won't let her just declare the game over. That bag isn't loot, it's a stack of captured pieces. And the most powerful entity in this show spends the episode doing it on foot, door to door, because even she has to obey the procedure. That's not a victim of a haunting, and it's not an unstoppable force either. That's a player bound by the same board everyone else is standing on. Proof number 3, and it's the rule running this entire show. Both sides need consent before they can take anything. Watch the man in yellow actually try to take someone.
Elgin, do you understand what I'm offering you?
It's a chance to go home, to leave all of this behind you. All you would have to do is help me. She doesn't just take him, she asks, twice.
I'm gonna ask you one last time.
Would you like to accept my bargain? And Elgin says no. He prays instead, out loud, right in front of her. That refusal is the one thing the deal isn't supposed to allow. And it kills him anyway. By force, the second consent gets denied. She kills him with her bare hands. That's not just a tragic death. That's a piece refusing the move it was supposed to make. And the board reacting violently to a result it didn't expect. Watch what she does right after, because it's the second best evidence in this episode. Get
rid of the body.
Now I light the match, and I watch it burn. A haunting doesn't need to dispose of evidence. A player covering her tracks does. Now here's the part that turns this into a rule, not a coincidence. Watch the exact same mechanic play out completely differently a few minutes later. Once you accept that it's a dream, the dream is going to provide you with everything that you need. That's not comfort. That's terms. Henry, go see your son. He doesn't fight it. He accepts the terms. And the system just lets him walk. Elgin refused and paid with his life in seconds. Henry accepted and kept walking. Same game. 2 completely different outcomes, depending entirely on which move you make. And it isn't just the man in yellow bound by this. Watch what happens when the residents ignore a warning instead of a deal. It turned dark in the middle of the day. Yeah, that's new. Nobody forced them to leave that tree alone. The warning came. The choice stayed entirely theirs, and they made it anyway. That's the mirror image of Elgin and Henry. The man in yellow needs consent to take. The boy in white only gets to offer, never force. 2 sides, bound by opposite versions of the exact same restriction. One can only take what's freely given. The other can only offer what's freely refused or accepted. Neither one of them can simply do what they want. That symmetry is the tell. If this were a haunting, there'd be one overwhelming force and a town full of helpless victims. Instead, we get 2 entities who both move in narrow, constrained ways. like pieces only allowed certain steps across the board. But rules don't make a game painless. Watch what one ignored warning actually costs, on the ground, to people who never agreed to play. Christy can barely speak. Okay, she tells her. We'll be okay. I'm right here, she keeps repeating. Like the words themselves are a kind of talisman. That's the part of the board game nobody plays for fun. And it isn't just the adults paying for this. Watch a child do the exact same math.
Promise! I know. She said she was gonna get us home.
She said she was gonna get us home. And now she's gone. And Dad's gone. Soon you'll be gone too.
No! Everyone here is gonna die! And I'm gonna be here!
That's the part of the tally the scoreboard never shows you. A child doing math no child should have to do. Before we get to the ending, here's the moment that proves this game has run longer than anyone realizes. Watch the second trip into those tunnels, because it's brutal. We can't do this with our hands. We need those goddamn shovels. We use the bones, comes the answer. To dig, we can use the bones. Think about that for a second. The exact thing this entire game is fought over becomes a tool to keep fighting. And listen to how they talk about what they're actually holding.
It's hard to believe this is real.
That these bones were actually children once. I know, comes the answer. They're not just digging up evidence. They're holding the actual piece this whole match was always being played for. And the board knows it. The creatures know exactly where they are. We need to hurry, someone says. And right when it gets desperate, Fatima makes the move that should be remembered, as long as anything Elgin did. I can buy you time, she says. Remember who I was. And she stays behind, trading her own life so the others can get the bones out. Two different people. Two different moves the board never accounted for. Elgin's refusal. Fatima's sacrifice. Now let's actually tally this episode the way the two of them tally it in the woods. But before the tally, here's the question you should already be asking. If both sides need consent, who agreed to the very first move? Somebody, generations ago, said yes to something. And every resident since has been playing out the terms of a deal they never personally made. That's not a haunting either. That's inherited debt, with rules nobody currently alive agreed to follow. Keep that in your head, because it's going to matter for where this is heading. The residents got the biggest piece on the board. The bones of the children. They have the bones, he says. That's a real capture. But look at what it cost. The bottle tree, gone. Elgin, gone. Fatima, gone. Every talisman in town, taken house by house. They captured a pawn, and handed over a queen, a king, and the board's entire defense. So bring it back to the line that should be replaying in your head right now. You're gonna lose this time. This time. You only say that when there were other times. More than once. Many times. And the reason he can say it with any hope is sitting in the two moves you just watched. Elgin refused. Fatima chose her own ending instead of waiting for one. That's why the boy in white sounds almost optimistic. Centuries into a game he's mostly been losing. Not because the residents are winning. They're not. They're down most of their protection. And they don't fully know how to use the piece they just captured. He's optimistic because a few of them finally moved themselves, instead of waiting to be moved. So here's what I think Season 5 actually is. And it's bigger than just surviving the bones. Every win the man in yellow has ever had depends on the residents not knowing there's a scoreboard. The second they understand there's a way to win, they stop being things that get moved. I don't think he was bluffing tonight. I think for the first time he can actually see a line to victory. And it runs straight through people like Elgin and Fatima, who'd rather lose themselves than be played. So watch that last scene again. Watch the two of them stand there and tally the board like the old opponents they actually are. And ask yourself the question this episode has been daring you to ask. Since the bones came out of the ground tonight. Not what's haunting this town, who's winning the game. And what happens the day the pieces finally start to play. One more thing before you go. If this really is a chess match, then every season finale isn't an ending, it's a round counter. 4 seasons in, and we just found out the match has been running far longer than 4 seasons. Which means everything we've watched so far might just be the last few moves of a much longer game. One the show has been playing since long before Jim Matthews ever found that road. Drop your read on the bones in the comments, and tell me which moment hit harder, Elgin's refusal, or Fatima's sacrifice? I'll see you in the next one.